glad to be with you today. It's June 4th, the day that we're recording this. I just wanted to start by mentioning that it was a very sad week last week, and I wanted to acknowledge the deaths of two amazing leaders in our community. Of course, Canada-wide, you probably know about the passing of Dr. Henry Morgentaler, the doctor who, through sheer determination and supported by and organizing with feminists for many, many years, broke boundaries for women seeking abortion and fought very, very hard at great personal loss and difficulty to gain the right for women in this country to have full, free access to abortion. Of course, we know that that still isn't true in all parts of this country. New Brunswick, for example, many rural areas, very, very difficult still for women to access abortions when they need them, even though the law says that they should be able to. So we got to continue the fight in honor of Dr. Morgentaler and all of the amazing women and men who worked with him to open clinics and to change Canada's laws. You know, the opposition to choice for women and to control over our bodies will take advantage of his death to mount their campaigns and continue to obstruct women's right to control over our bodies. So we've got to redouble our efforts, but it's a very sad, not unexpected, of course. He was 90 years old, but still very sad for that loss. And of course, here in Toronto, feminists, anti-violence workers, and many, many, many others are mourning the passing of Cindy Cowan, a very fierce woman, kind, gentle woman, but very determined, very brave, who died of ovarian cancer. Cindy was very young, 47. She was the ED at many shelters in this city. She worked on countless human and women's rights campaigns, and she was a real leader. Anybody who met Cindy loved her and was loved by her. She was just the most generous spirit, and there was a wonderful memorial for her on Saturday, June 1st at the 519 Church Street Community Center, attended by hundreds. The ballroom there was overflowing with people, just a real indication of the love and mourning of Cindy's passing. And there's been a couple of articles about Cindy in the Globe and Mail, so if you go to the Globe and Mail website and Google Cindy Cowan, you'll find a couple of recent articles about her. So it won't be the same without her, but again, we must continue to carry her spirit forward and continue the fight against violence against women and trans people in all its forms. I wanted to tell you about a bunch of events, so I'm going to go through them pretty quickly today. Two having to do with, again, our country's deplorable behavior around immigration and continued deportation of people. I wanted to let you know that on Friday, June 7th at 8 p.m. at the San Lorenzo Latin American Community Center at 22 Wenderley Drive in Toronto, there's going to be what's billed as a Latin Broadway extravaganza for a family unity in support of the Figueroa family. Jose Figueroa is a man from El Salvador originally, who in his youth fought fought against the brutal right-wing military dictatorship in El Salvador in the 80s and 90s. He was with a group that at that time was labeled by the Americans as a terrorist organization. Of course, we know the Americans often intervened in Latin American and Central American countries and labeled popular uprisings as terrorist. That group now actually is recognized by the Canadian government and is a mainstream group in El Salvador. But at the time when Jose was working with people there against the dictatorship, it was considered to be a terrorist group. In any case, because of that long ago involvement, or supposedly because of that long ago involvement, Canadian Border Services Agency and the federal government is intending to deport Jose and split his family. And again, as they've done so many times in the recent past, split up loving families for no reason whatsoever other than misguided politics and ideology. So on Friday, June 7th, we can raise money for that family to support them, the San Lorenzo Latin American Community Center at 8 p.m. And you can find out more about Mr. Figueroa's case and story at www.wearejose.org, and we'll put that up on the screen for you. Following that on Saturday, it's a very busy day. A couple of events I want to let you know about. As you know, of course, June is Pride Month in Toronto and in many places around the world. And we have World Pride coming to Toronto next year in 2014. The organizers and people behind World Pride are having a community summit on Saturday, June 8th, all day long at Toronto City Hall in the third floor council chambers. Registration is at 9:30 a.m. There's a presentation about World Pride and the plans so far at 10 a.m. Then a networking and social at 11:30 a.m. And I believe the goal of this summit is to let people know what's happening in terms of the organizing for World Pride and to engage people and get them interested in being involved in the organizing. Obviously, an event like this is going to take many, many, many volunteers, and it's important in the organizing of World Pride that we have as diverse a representation of the LGBTQ two-spirited and intersex community as possible. So I do encourage you to attend. They're putting this invitation out to a wide range of groups, leaders, individuals, members, supporters, friends, and participants. And so it's really important for us all to make sure that the people organizing Pride have our input as well as our energy and our commitment. So that's something that they're hoping that we will all come out on June 8th at City Hall, starting at 9:30 in the morning, City Hall at 100 Queen Street West. You can register, and they're asking people to do so because the committee room will only hold so many people. You can register at wp14to.eventbrite.com, and we'll make sure that you see that on the screen as well, so that you can share this with your friends and possibly come out yourselves. That same day, of course, it's always busy on the weekends, especially as we get into Pride season. The Women's Human Rights Education Institute, the Caribbean Studies Program, and the Center for Women's Studies and Education at Oise U of T are proud to present LGBTI Lives in Saint Lucia and the Caribbean region. And this is a panel discussion and film screening on activism for LGBTI human rights in the Caribbean, with particular focus on invisibility of lesbian and bisexual women. That's happening Saturday, June 8th. From 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. and that's at Oise. That's 252 Bloor Street West. It's on the ground floor in the library, which is a wheelchair accessible space, and that's at very close to the St. George subway station. You can find more at www.learnwhr.org, and they have 3 panelists coming who are members of the group called the United and Strong, an LGBTI human rights organization in San Lucia. So 3 women coming up to talk about LGBTI rights in St. Lucia and the Caribbean. I invite you to attend on Saturday, June 8th, World Pride Summit to begin, and then head over to Oise for this really interesting exploration of what's happening for queer and trans people in St. Lucia. And finally, what I'd like to tell you a little bit about is an action that's being taken. It's actually being headed up by Vancouver No One Is Illegal, but it's an action that people right across Canada can be involved in. And I signed up for this the other day, and I hope that you will think about doing this as well. Recently, it became clear there is a television show called Border Security. It's a reality show. I don't know if you've seen it. I'm not sure what channel it's on, but it's basically a television show that follows Canada Border Services agents around at border crossing points and films their interactions with people, particularly their interactions with people they are detaining, meaning that who they are detaining, of course, will be people who are newcomers to Canada. Refugees, people on visitors and student visas, people who are perhaps permanent residents, anyone who comes under suspicion at the border by the CBSA is possibly involved, is subject to intervention and possible having them be portrayed on this television show. And in fact, anyone visiting a border crossing of any kind is possibly going to have their image and activities shown on this show. Because what they do is they say, we assume that when you come into this space, the border crossing space, you are giving your implied consent to be on this show. Why should we be concerned about this show? Because this show recently did a television show showing CBS agents raiding different parts of airports, arresting people, many people arrested and detained with their names, their images, their likenesses all over the television. And this is in fact an incredible invasion of privacy. It's obscene to be filming the arrests of people. I know there are lots of reality shows like that, but we've really got to protest against this. And of course, these are people that are not guilty of anything. They are merely being detained and stopped by CBSA. And we know that Canada Border Services agencies and police officers stop people of color, people they perceive to be newcomers, all the time with no cause whatsoever. And so what's happened is that the Vancouver No One is Illegal, with the support of cultural workers right across the country, have succeeded in getting the Canadian government, and I should let you know our Canadian government funds this show to some extent. And what they have managed to do is bring a lot of attention to this show, and they have made the Canadian government back off a little bit from the production of this show. But what they want to do now is to make sure that all of us going to border crossings tell the government and the producers of this show and broadcasters and the CBSA know that we do not consent to be on this show. We're going to put up a website. I don't have time to tell you more details, but you can register your lack of consent. You can let the producers of this show know that you do not consent to be on this show, which means that we can start to shut down the production of this obscene violation of people's human rights. Go to bccla.org/not-for-TV/refusal. You can also find it on Facebook under Tell Border Security I do not consent. And I urge you to do that. Let's make it impossible for them to film anybody at a border crossing and shut down this show. Thanks a lot.